says the first ingredient is oat flour, right? Then there's sugar and corn syrup and dextrose. All three of those are sugars. So actually, by weight, there is more sugar in this than there are oat flour. All right? And Grace, why don't you explain a little bit to them about corn syrup?
See, when corn syrup was first made, they used cornstarch. That's where they got the name. But you know, cornstarch is as dead as a doornail. You know what it looks like. It's just that fine white powder, and there's no nourishment in it at all. We don't need any cornstarch. But they'll take a lot of cornstarch and put it in a great big vat, pour in hydrochloric acid and sulfuric acid, and stir it and stir it and stir it, and it turns into Karo corn syrup. And everybody liked Karo corn syrup. Now that's the reason that we don't eat it, because it's a dead substance, and a substance that's very damaging to our bodies. Later, they found out they could make corn syrup that tasted all right made out of sawdust. So now they get sawdust and pour in the hydrochloric acid and the sulfuric acid, and they get what they call corn syrup. And you will find that in all candy bars except a very, very few. So read your labels and select candy bars that do not have any corn syrup in them.
All right, let's go on with this label then. Wheat starch, salt, gelatin, calcium carbonate, sodium phosphate, sodium ascorbate, artificial flavor, niacin, artificial color, iron, vitamin A palmitate, pyridoxine hydrochloride, riboflavin, thiamine mononitrate, and vitamin D2.
You like the sound of all those chemicals? You know, there are over 5,000 chemicals used in modern foods. And then we wonder why people get sick. Right? Let's take another one.
How about Carnation Instant Breakfast? This has always been my favorite one. It's a real plastic food. A real plastic food. Ingredients: non-fat dry milk, sucrose, corn syrup solid, lactose. Those last three ingredients are forms of sugar. So by weight, the biggest ingredient in here would be sugar. Magnesium hydroxide, ammonium carrageenan, artificial flavors, including vanillin and ethyl vanillin, sodium ascorbate, vitamin E acetate, ferrous fumarate, vitamin A, niacin, calcium pantothenate, thiamine mononitrate, basic copper carbonate, pyroxidine hydrochloride, folic acid, and vitamin D2.
Can you imagine that tasting good? I have never bought a box of that. But it's amazing when you watch what people carry out of supermarkets in their baskets, you know. If you stand there at the checkout counter, and I'll sometimes look at their baskets, they've spent $15 to $25 and they don't have more than $1 worth of nourishment in that whole cart.
How about instant Bliss? That ought to sound simple enough, doesn't it? Quakers. Nice religious man there on the side. See if I can find the ingredients here. Ingredients. Specially processed, degerminated white corn grits. Now that one really makes me wonder, what kind of process did they do, and why did they degerminate it, and why is it white? And how did they get it white? Salt, cellulose gum, niacin, reduced iron. How do you reduce iron? BHA, thiamine mononitrate, and riboflavin. Now, you'd think, grits. Well, there just ought to be grits in there, right? No, that's not the way it is.
Now, degerminated grain has had all of the seed part, or the life of the seed. Like when they take the germ out of wheat, that's wheat germ. You see, they can make money on wheat germ because that's the good part. And when people and animals eat degerminated flour or grains, they get heart attacks. See, we need that oil from the germ of the grain.
How about a good breakfast drink? Fries, Warden fries with real fruit bits. New. Fruit punch. Artificial flavored drink mix. As soon as you see drink on there, you know it's going to be not the best. Now remember, the ingredients are listed by their weight. First ingredient, sugar. Citric acid provides tartness. Propylene glycol alginate provides body. What it says. Artificial and natural flavors. Cornstarch. Sodium citrate regulates tartness. Kids gets too tart. Dehydrated apple, salt, dehydrated raspberries, dehydrated strawberries, artificial color, ascorbic acid, and modified food starch.
Now, one thing you should know about artificial flavors and artificial coloring, those are the two ingredients that cause hyperkinetic children. Dr. Feingold has written a very wonderful book explaining what causes children to be hyperkinetic. Now, hyperkinetic means that they're almost uncontrollable. They're just jittery all the time, bouncing up and down, into this, into that, and just don't know the first thing about obeying. And as soon as the doctor can get parents to take their children off of artificial flavorings and artificial colorings, the children will quiet down within 2 days' time.
How about high C? High C. Contains water. What's the first ingredient by weight? Water. Second ingredient, sugar and corn sweeteners. Concentrated orange juice, concentrated grapefruit juice, natural flavors, citric acid provides tartness, concentrated grape juice, concentrated pineapple juice, guava juice, passion fruit juice, vitamin C, and artificial colors. Contains 10% fruit juice. Remember, that was about the last 6 or 8 ingredients. That's only 10%. So the other 80%, most of the 80% is sugar and water. It's mostly sugar water. High C. How about something to flavor your coffee? Coffee mix. Non-dairy creamer. Ingredients. Corn syrup solid. Vegetable fat, sodium caseinate, mono and diglycerides, dipotassium phosphate, artificial flavor, and artificial colors.
You like the sound of that?
Anything you can't pronounce isn't good for you. Oh boy, I looked at this. Uncle Ben's long grain and wild rice with carefully selected herbs and seasonings. That sounds like a pretty good label on the front. Then you turn it over, and this is what is in Uncle Ben's. Converted brand enriched parboiled rice. BHT added as a preservative. Wild rice, 14%. Hydrolyzed vegetable proteins, dehydrated vegetables, onion, parsley, spinach, garlic, celery, potato, monosodium glutamate, sugar, salt, smoked yeast, spices, flavoring, hydrogenated soybean oil, sodium sulfite, sodium bisulfate, sodium bicarbonate as preservatives for vegetables.
This is why we don't buy packaged things like that. And another thing that I have heard, they also put a preservative in the cardboard carton of many of these things and don't put that on the label.
Would you like to tell them about hydrogenated oil?
You tell them.
They take hydrogen and blow it up through the oil, and that solidifies it, but it also turns into a poison when you do that to it. It changes the whole structure of the fat molecule. Nothing more about it?
Well, the reason we don't want to eat anything that's hydrogenated, now that means Spry, Crisco, Oleo, Fluffo, and even the hydrogenated fats that they sell in natural food stores are 10% hydrogenated. Now that all those substances will leave cholesterol in every artery and vein in your body. Deposits this stuff on the inside of the arteries and veins. You would think the body would throw it out through the bowel movement, but it doesn't. And that's the reason, see, these arteries and veins get a thin coat of cholesterol in there. And as that coat builds up, the opening gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And the heart has to pump harder and harder. And finally, the veins and arteries get hard, and they'll maybe crack, or the person will have a heart attack or a stroke. So we stay away from hydrogenated fat.